Welcome back to the Rollout. I'm Jeff Pratt, and joining me as always is Trent Henrich. How's it going, Trent?
Things are pretty well around here. I'm moving into college tomorrow. It's kind of exciting.
Nice. Yeah, I've got a couple more days, but Trent, who's going to be a CA, I'm very proud of you picking up some more responsibilities around campus, moving back tomorrow.
Yeah, I am, and I'm gonna miss a lot of the free time I had, but I'm saving a lot of money by being a CA, which is a community assistant. If anyone was curious, but I'm just excited to go back to school, new scenery, or at least something different than what I've been used to all summer.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, we're going to jump straight into this, and I am going to share my screen with you guys. Let me know if we're all set there.
I see something about playoff P.
P or Pandemic P, as we like to call him now.
Yep.
Paul George. This is a football podcast, so we won't get into that. But yeah, so I went ahead and created on TierMaker right here a 2020 fantasy football wide receivers tier list maker. That's just something random. I named it, but pretty much what we have here is, according to Fantasy Pros, these are the top 30 PPR receivers heading into the 2020-21 NFL season. And what Trent and I are going to do is we're going to go through each one and, from a fantasy perspective, rank them on how we believe they're going to do this season and how we would value them heading into the season. Trent, that sound good to you?
Yeah, and just to preface for the audience, what does the S mean on the top?
Do you have an S?
I have an S.
I don't have an
Okay,
S.
never mind.
Yeah, so I edited this list personally a little bit, so you might not have it. But we have A plus, A minus, B plus, B minus, and then we have C and D for the really lower caliber players.
Awesome. I'm excited.
All right, sounds good. So these players are all jumbled. We're not going to go in order because we want to be able to mix things up a little bit. We'll start with the top left, which is going to be Robert Woods from the Rams. Trent, I know that I'm probably a little higher on him than you are this season. I'm interested to hear your perspective on Woods first.
Yeah, I mean, I do like Woods. You're probably just higher than him because I think you own more shares of him in a lot of drafts, and you're a big fan of him. I am a big fan of him. I think when the season, or at least when we started doing the rollout, I was higher on Cooper Kupp just because he showed what he can do last season. And even with that 12-man set, I still think he will get some time, even though it's tough that he comes out of the slot. But to go back to Robert Woods, he's risen for me. I have him and Cooper about dead even, honestly. I like Woods in PPR especially, though. I think he does have some added upside in PPR. If I had to choose, at least right now, my preliminary of where I'd put Robert Woods, I'd put him at a B for now.
Okay, I was gonna put him at a B plus, but we'll slide him in. We'll slide him in at a B for now. We can always move these players around. I think, judging the first player is always hard because you have to see where you put other guys first, and then we can move some guys around. And I'm telling you, the next guy on this list is definitely going to be higher, and that's Kenny Golladay from the Lions. I'll start off right now. I'm going to slide him up to A. I'm not ready to put him in that top tier yet. I don't know what you're thinking, Trent. But for me, he's a top 10 receiver in my mind this year. And for that reason alone, I'm leaving A plus for the tiers of guys who I think are top 5. And I think Kenny Golladay is right in that pack below that group. And whether it's in PPR, obviously this is a PPR list, so his value might not be quite as high as in a standard, where obviously he's one of the best touchdown upside guys in the league. But he's still a top 10 guy for me. And for that reason, I think I slid him into A.
Yeah, I mean, I think our rankings are going to be a little bit different, but that's okay.
Yeah, that's fine.
For me, A plus is like, I don't even think it extends to 5 guys. I think it extends to like 2 or 3.
Okay.
So I would put Kenny Golladay personally probably at an A minus, just to leave room, because I don't want to go all the way to the top. I want to leave room to see who I'm going to slot other guys and then move them around. I'm fine with putting Kenny Golladay at A and see where we go from here. I think you're right. I think Kenny Golladay is a top 10 wide receiver, but I don't know if he is A caliber coming off of one really good season.
Yeah, that's definitely fair. But as we said, this is projections for what we think is going to happen this year. And I understand your reasoning. I think let's just say we leave him there for now, and then we can move him down if we have to.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, sounds good. And the next two guys we have, we'll start moving a little bit quicker now, just to keep you guys involved. We have two straight Seahawks, Tyler Lockett and DK Metcalf. And Trent, I want to kind of move them both at the same time because I think I'm probably going to put them both in the B tier, but after Robert Woods, I would say. What are you thinking?
It's another tough one because Tyler Lockett is a consistent top 15 wide receiver. He does have the added challenge of having DK in the offense, who's going to distract him. I think you and I both think that DK is going to better Lockett this season. I could be wrong by saying that, but I think we're both on the same page with that. I would argue I like DK's upside. I don't know. I think I would put this is a tough one.
Because you can't put him above Robert Woods right now. At least I can't. I cannot do that. I think Robert Woods is also consistently being drafted higher than DK at least this year. And I do agree with you that DK, I think he's going to do better than Lockett this year. But look at the ADPs; they're really close together. And just throwing that out the window, I think the production you see from both of them is going to be pretty close this year as well.
Well, it's funny because I wasn't sure, but I was gonna put one of them at B minus and one at B. But
Okay.
I honestly couldn't decide which one to put at B because historically Lockett is a top 15 wide receiver, which I think is B worthy. But we also think DK is gonna do better this season. So I guess based off our projections, we would have DK as a B and maybe Lockett as a B minus.
Sure. You know, yeah, we'll do that then. We'll roll with that for now. Obviously, we can change it, but we're sliding DK into B and lock it into B minus. And now moving on, we have the next Rams receiver, which is Cooper Kupp. And you look at Kupp this year, Trent, you said that you have he and Robert Woods pretty close. I do think Kupp is a better receiver than Lockett. I do think he'll do better than Lockett this year. Um, will he do better than DK? I'm not so sure. I think I'm probably taking Metcalf over Cooper Kupp in leagues this year. And I do think that Kupp is a B receiver. I think we can slide him in there right now at the very least. He's not a B minus guy.
I think Cup's a B receiver. The reason why I think I would draft at least Cup over DK is because the Rams are going to throw the ball a lot more. The Seahawks kind of they don't let Russell Wilson be Russell Wilson. They run the ball a lot in that offense, and it limits some of these wide receivers opportunities. Whereas Jared Goff slings the ball. He throws, you know, he'll do 650 attempts in a season. Like it's possible for Jared Goff to do that. But I'm happy putting Cup at B.
Yeah, definitely. All right. Moving on. We have a guy that we know sliding into A plus. We don't really need to talk that much about Michael Thomas. Set the single season reception record last year. The man is an absolute monster. He's going to be a top 5 receiver at the very least. That's his floor this year.
Yeah, there's no argument there, and we don't have to talk about that any further.
Yeah. All right. So now we have an interesting one. A guy from the Steelers who had a phenomenal year in 2018, but disappointed, struggled with the injuries last season. That's Juju Smith-Schuster. Trent, initially looking at this list, I think I want to slide him into the B plus range. What are you feeling?
That's what I'm feeling too. I feel comfortable putting him at B plus. I would definitely draft him over everyone below him. Robert Woods, DK, Cup. I'm drafting Juju over them. I don't know how far apart. I don't know if Galladay and Juju are that far apart, though, which makes me feel like maybe Galladay needs to be dropped down to A minus. But there's a lot more players to mix in. So, but yeah, I agree. B plus for Juju.
Yeah, and you know it's funny. I'm actually going to agree with you, Trent, because I see who's next. Sorry, on the list, and it's Allen Robinson. And I look at him and I think A minus, but I also think he's right there with Kenny Galladay. So for that reason alone, are we thinking we slide Galladay down to A minus? I think that's probably the move.
And we can always move. We can always move him around. But yeah, for now, I'd say
All right,
let's
we'll
throw him down
slide
to A
him.
minus.
And then for Galladay, for Allen Robinson, at least for me, I think he's a guy who's B plus to A minus tier for me this year. And I think right now, at least we'll talk about him, but I'll just slide him there behind Kenny Galladay. You look at what he did last season, 98 receptions. The man is a PPR monster. Obviously, there are some injury concerns, came off an ACL tear. hadn't played that well in a couple of years, and the quarterback situation is obviously something to keep an eye on. But that being said, A-Rob is a tremendous receiver, and whether Mitch or Nick Foles wins the job, I think there's definitely upside for A-Rob to see 140 plus targets again this year.
I think Allen Robinson is one of the most interesting guys to talk about because I think skill-wise, he's probably close to an A wide receiver.
Yeah.
His quarterback is a D quarterback, and
F quarterback. F quarterback.
and his workload is an A plus workload. So
Mm-hmm.
he's a really interesting player to talk about, and some of these things have to offset. I don't know if I'm drafting Allen Robinson before Juju. I think they're closer for me than Kenny Galladay and Allen Robinson, but I also have a little bias just because I'm not a huge on Allen Robinson. But I know he has the workload. I mean, his workload's far greater than Kenny Galladay's will be. Kenny Galladay is more of a high yards per catch guy, where um, uh, Allen Robinson's a high volume guy. So I don't mind putting him in A minus. I'm just not sure if I was in a draft if I am going to snag A-Rob over Juju.
Yeah, and I think one thing that kind of maybe establishes a difference between the two is that A-Rob has shown he can be a dominant number one receiver on a team. And as much as we love Juju, he just hasn't shown that yet. And I think both of us believe he can do that this season. But until he does, for me, I think it's probably reasonable to put A-Rob in a tier above him.
Yeah, and I like that too. And thinking at least historically last season, Juju just wasn't there. And Allen Robinson had a great season. So having said that, I feel more comfortable now for having A-Rob at A minus.
Yeah. All right. So moving on, we have the number one receiver from the Indianapolis Colts, T.Y. Hilton. Trent, looking at this right away, I think I want to slide him into C, honestly, because you look at T.Y.'s situation, it's much better than last year. He's having a guy in Phillip Rivers who loves to throw the ball coming in, but injuries are a serious concern. He already picked up a hammy problem. That's what he struggled with at the tail end of last year. I just don't trust him to stay on the field for the majority of the season next year. I'm definitely not taking him over Tyler Lockett, that's for sure. And for that reason alone, I think I'm probably going to put him at C.
Yeah, I'm comfortable having T.Y. at C. And then I guess I would say that he does have B upside.
Yeah.
He hasn't been that consistent lately. He does have a new quarterback, which I like a lot. And I think that Philip Rivers really connected well with Keenan Allen for all these years, and Ty may try to fill that role. But I think for now, I'm having Ty at C.
Yeah. All right. So this is an interesting one. We're going to the Cleveland Browns. We have Jarvis Landry, wide receiver 2, who outperformed Odell Beckham Jr. last year. And this is a tough one, Trent. I think looking at the guys we have in B and looking at B minus, realistically, I think I want to slide him into B minus ahead of Tyler Lockett. What are you thinking?
I disagree. I think I have Jarvis at C.
I'd see.
And,
Interesting.
and here's my reasoning why is because I think that Odell Beckham's going to have a lot bigger season than he had in the past.
I mean, that's
We think
fair.
we think that Nick Chubb is going to have the same running workload. We think Kareem Hunt is going to see more targets out of the backfield than he did last season, saying he didn't play a full season. And then Austin Hooper is now in this offense, and we were pretty high on Austin Hooper. And I can't say that Jarvis is going to be a top 15, 20 wide receiver this season, but I can say Tyler Lockett's done it the last 3 seasons, and there's no reason for me to think he can't do it a 4th. That's why I'd put him at C with Ty.
All right, you sold me. Can we at least put him above Ty? Because I think both of us are drafting
Yes,
Jarvis
yes,
over
yes,
Ty.
yes.
All right,
Of
you
course.
sold me there. This is when we have not having a C plus range probably hurts because I definitely put him in that range between them, those two. Probably looking at it again. All right, now we have another interesting one. Tyreek Hill from the Kansas City Chiefs. Immediately, I think I'm sliding him into A range, Trent, because I will say he's not even in my top 5. I don't think if I had to look at it and. He's not in your top 3, that's for sure. But he is definitely above Kenny Galladay and Allen Robinson.
Yeah, I agree. He fits perfectly in this A slot. I don't think he deserves A plus, but I think that year in and year out, he's going to be an A wide receiver. I think the offense is so crowded that he can't be A plus in general. Just because in PPR, you just won't see the touches.
Yeah. All right, moving on. We have the established number one wide receiver from the Miami Dolphins, Devontae Parker, which is not something I thought we would ever be saying considering how his career was going up until last season. But he finally figured things out. Looking at this draft board, Trent, immediately I'm kind of tempted to slide him in behind Tyler Lockett at B minus based off the potential this season. I think you agree with me.
I do agree with you. I think that's where he should fit. And the more I look at this board, the more I'm starting to think maybe Robert Woods could deserve B plus.
That's what
I
I'm
don't, I'm not,
saying. That's
I'm
what I'm
not, com-
saying.
I'm not comfortable to move him yet. There's a lot of players left, but let's throw Devontae at B minus behind Tyler.
All right, sounds good. And we have another guy who I think slides into that range in Stephon Diggs. For me, you can slide him in. Probably Diggs for me is above Devontae Parker, but probably below Tyler Lockett. So I would slide him in that range as well. I don't know if you're that high on him, but that's just me.
Honestly, I mean, I think he's higher.
Okay. Well, do you
Um,
think he's still in that B minus range, or are you making a case for him to be put in the B range? I think it's hard to put him in the B range with the guys we have right there.
it is hard to put him there, but I mean, you like Josh Allen a lot. I know he's a running quarterback, so that helps in those formats. But I mean, this is when Stephon Diggs was the number one wide receiver in an offense. We know how much he can produce. I don't think last season he had full production. He had problems with the Vikings, and Thielen's been there, kind of uh, taking a lot of potential targets away from Stephon Diggs. I don't think John Brown has the same effect to Stephon Diggs, and I think Josh Allen is going to throw on the ball a lot. I think I'm comfortable putting him either ahead of Tyler Lockett or behind Cooper Cup.
Yeah, I think that's definitely fair. I think for now, we'll slide him in ahead of Lockett with the potential to move him behind Cup for sure. I think that's probably right because when I look at these guys, obviously Cooper Cup was wide receiver 4, I think, in PPR leagues last year. And based off his production, I think he's just a safer option than Stephon Diggs.
Yeah, for sure.
All right, so this guy's a complete wild card. We have from the Cincinnati Bengals, AJ Green. Trent, I'll let you start us off here because looking at this board, I'm not even sure where I want to slide Green in right now.
Here's the thing. I mean, we've been talking a lot about where we would draft them, but that's not what we're doing here. We're talking about where they're going to finish, and I think that's important to mention here because I do think if and if is the big question. If AJ Green plays a full season, he's going to do really well. He has an upgraded quarterback. Joe Mixon's going to distract defenses, make them worry about the run a little bit more. I think I don't see why AJ Green can't be at least in the B minus territory.
Yeah, I'm completely with you. Actually, you sold me, and that's probably where I'm having him too. I think he can definitely push for top 20 territory if he's completely healthy. I mean, we know he has top 10 upside, and he's not that old. I think he's 31, maybe 32 years of age. So he definitely still has the upside to put up star numbers. Now, will he do that? Probably not. Tyler Boyd established himself as a really solid option. Joe Burrow, as much as we love him, is a rookie quarterback, and Joe Mixon's going to be a focal point of this offense as well. So there are plenty key pieces to that Cincinnati Bengals offense. But I do think Green has a good year. I'm comfortable sliding him at B minus, but I would put him behind Devontae Parker.
Yeah, and I'm fine putting there too. And here's one thing for people to think about AJ Green is yes, he is 32 years old, but the Bengals clearly see something if they just sign him on that franchise tag. Like coming off an injury, didn't play last season, and they're still going to put a franchise tag on him. There has to be something that you don't just waste that or use that franchise on a guy you don't think is going to be back to his old self. So I think a B minus is fine, but don't be surprised if he finishes the season a lot higher.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, moving on. We have Cortland Sutton, a guy that Trent and I are both extremely high on from a pure football perspective from the Denver Broncos. That's another team that Trent and I are also really high on this year. We think they're we both of us think that they're going to push for the playoffs this season. Looking at this draft board, I think I'd probably slide Sutton in at B behind Cooper Cup. I think you're thinking B minus range, Trent?
I'm thinking B minus range ahead of Devontae Parker behind Tyler
Wow,
Lockett.
really? See, that's not the case for me. I think that Cortland Sutton, I know you think Judy is going to be a big factor in this offense, and I think so as well, but I don't see a reason why he can't help out Cortland Sutton to an extent. Obviously, he's going to take targets away from him. So will the emergence of Noah Fant as a second-year player, and Melvin Gordon's a really solid receiving back. So yes, that offense is crowded, but we're talking about projected production here. And I think that there's no reason Cortland Sutton can't put up similar numbers to Cooper Kupp this year.
Yeah, I mean, I just feel comfortable putting him at. I would not. It's tough.
Here's the
I
thing,
think
Trent, I'll pose you this question. Let's say you're in a draft and Cooper Kupp, Cortland Sutton, and Stephon Diggs are on the board. I think two of those guys are much higher in your mind of who you're going to take than one of them.
I agree, but I don't know. I just all right. Let's put him behind Cooper Kupp. I think there may be a point looking at the guys who are left that Kupp and Sutton may both be moved down to B- in front of the guys in B-. But let's put him at B- behind Cooper Kupp.
All right. Yeah, that's fair enough. Okay. Moving on, this is an A-plus guy, Julio Jones, one of the most consistent receivers in the NFL. My favorite receiver currently in the NFL, going to be a top 10 guy of all time when he finishes at that position. Trent, do you have anything else to add?
I think that is I put him ahead of Michael Thomas.
Let's do it. Yeah, why not? I think both of
I
us believe he can finish ahead of Thomas this year as well. So let's do it.
if he gets double-digit touchdowns, he will be better than Thomas. Mark my words. I truly believe that.
Yeah, yeah, I completely agree. I mean, that's been the one thing that hasn't really let him down or let his fantasy owners down, but that's the one thing holding him back per se from a fantasy perspective. And I think that if he even nears double-digit touchdown range with Emmanuel Sanders coming in and a healthy Alvin Kamara, and I say healthy with quotation marks because he's playing on a knee that he didn't get surgery on after he tore his MCL, which is definitely something we're going to cover when we do the running back episode, because that has definitely affected my view of him from this season. But moving on, I think that Michael Thomas is going to see regression this year. Julio Jones, they had the most vacated targets in Atlanta in the entire NFL this season. I think he could easily finish as wide receiver one.
I agree. I just want to note something before we get there. I think you have Michael Thomas twice on this list. I don't know if you noticed that.
Do I?
I see his picture.
Oh
I
no!
believe
See, that's the. I think you're looking at an old draft for some reason. Oh wait, no, I do. I have him flexing too, so that means I must have missed someone. All right. Well,
it's
Michael
not a
Thomas.
big not a big
Yeah,
problem. But
we'll slide him down there at the bottom. Yeah.
yeah.
All right. And that means I have a list right here of the top 30 receivers. So we're missing someone from the top 30, and we'll slide in where they should be. Anyway,
Yep.
moving on, we have DeAndre Hopkins from the Arizona Cardinals. This is an interesting one, Trent. I think I'd probably slide him in the A range ahead of Tyreek Hill.
That's where I have him. I think that's correct.
Yeah.
I don't argue with that. I think that it's all dependent on his workload this season. He's always been a guy who's done really well in a high volume offense. I think if he gets that high volume again, he'll produce his big numbers.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. So next we have a guy who Trent and I are much higher on from a pure football perspective than a fantasy perspective this year, I would say, and that's Mike Evans. In my opinion, Mike Evans might be a top 5 receiver from talent perspective in the NFL. From a fantasy perspective, obviously he's in a very crowded offense. He's not going to be seeing as many targets with Tom Brady under center now that Jameis Winston is gone. Still, that being said, I'm probably sliding him in the A- range with Kenny Golladay and Allen Robinson.
I am in the same mindset, and I'm curious where you put him with those three guys.
I'm putting him ahead, both of those guys. I would draft him consistently ahead, even in the PPR league. I would draft him ahead of Kenny Golladay and Allen Robinson.
That's fair. I think that, I think it'd be tough. It'd be a toss-up for me between Kenny Golladay and Mike Evans. But if I looked at historically, it'd be no-brainer going with Evans just because he's hadn't had less than 1,000 yards ever. So.
Yeah, exactly. All right, moving on. We have a guy from the Tennessee Titans, A.J. Brown, who had a monster rookie campaign. Unfortunately, he has Ryan Tannehill throwing him the ball. That doesn't really help This is an interesting one, Trent. I think this might be the first guy to join Juju in the B plus range. What are you thinking?
I disagree.
Where do you put him in the B range?
I put him ahead of Cooper Cup, behind DK Metcalf in the B range.
You think so? You're drafting DK Metcalf over AJ Brown this year.
I mean,
This is a projection standpoint. Like if you think DK Metcalf will finish higher than AJ
okay,
Brown.
I won't put AJ Brown ahead of Robert Woods.
Okay. All right, you know that's fair. And that's why I'm saying I think that Robert Woods should be pushed up to B plus. Because I think that AJ Brown we can slide him in at B. That's fine. But then I think that Robert Woods should join Juju in B plus.
I'm fine if you want to do that.
All right. We'll go ahead and do that then. All right. Moving on. We have this guy is pretty controversial in the fantasy community this season. It's Keenan Allen from the Chargers. He was wide receiver 6 in PPR leagues last year. I know that Trent, I think both you and I are higher on him than most people this season. For Keenan, the production I'm expecting this year, I'd slide him. I want to put him at B behind Cortland Sutton, but also I know he probably fits a little better in the B minus range.
It's a tough one. I mean, the B minus team that we have right now, the core is very good. I don't know if I can say, wow, this is tough.
Yeah. I'd want to put him in the B range. I'm drafting him over everyone in the B minus range. We'll say that.
I think just looking at it, I think we need to move Tyler Lockett up. The more I look at it.
All right. Yeah, we'll do it.
Just,
and then can we slide Keenan in behind him then? Or are we sliding or are we putting him ahead of Stephon Diggs?
I think we leave Diggs down. I think we have to.
Okay. All right. So this B category is really racking it up. And as you said, we might need to move some guys up to B plus.
Yeah, so we put Lockett behind. So okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm comfortable with that. I don't know if I have Keenan Allen in the B range. To be honest with you, I just looking at it. I think Keenan Allen should be the head of the B minus.
Yeah. Okay. We'll do it. I was struggling trying to figure out if we should do that as well, and I think that's probably the way to go because there is a little bit of a drop off after Lockett. Moving on, we have arguably the most controversial wide receiver this season in Odell Beckham Jr. Trent, I know you're a little higher on him than I am, but I'm still comfortable putting him in the B plus range. I don't want to put him higher than that. I don't project him to finish higher than Juju or Robert Woods, but I could definitely see him having a fantastic season.
Yeah, I personally would put him in B plus as well. I would put him ahead of Robert Woods, but if you want to put him behind, if you want to put him behind Robert Woods, I understand that as well. I mean,
that's fine.
I think they're in similar situations where, I mean, both the guys on the list. It's Jarvis and Odell and Woods and Cup. They're both really good duos, and they're both going to get a lot of a heavy workload. I don't know. I think where we have him is right.
Yeah, I would agree. All right. Moving on, we have the number one receiver from the Packers. It's Davante Adams, and this is an interesting one. I think I want to slide Davante Adams into the A plus range after Michael Thomas because of the target share we're expecting him to get this year.
I agree. I think that's where he deserves to belong. I think he's going to have the target share that Michael Thomas had last season.
He could easily get that much. Yeah.
I think he's going to be in the 175, 180 range for targets. It's going to be crazy.
Yeah, he could definitely. All right. Moving on, we have DJ Moore from the Carolina Panthers. I think this is a guy. Oh, this is a tough one, huh? I don't see how we can put him ahead of Juju in the pack. So I think we slide him into the B plus range. Alongside Juju. Are you taking Odell over DJ Moore? I can't.
No. I'm on the same page. I was trying to think about it, but yeah, DJ Moore behind Juju before Odell sounds pretty good.
Yeah. All right. Sounds good. We'll slide him if he wants to go there. All right. Now we have one of my favorite receivers this year from a fantasy perspective, Calvin Ridley from the Atlanta Falcons. I think he has potential to put up a monster season. Looking at who we have in the B and B minus range, I think he belongs in B. And personally, I'm going to put him after Cooper Kupp. That's based on my own projections. I think he's going to finish higher than Cortland Sutton and T.Y. or not T.Y. Hilton. Sorry. Well, yes, T.Y. Hilton, but Tyler Lockett, just based on how many targets I think he's going to get, his touchdown upside. He had 17 scores over his first 2 seasons in the league. Puts that together with a number 2 target workload in that Atlanta offense. I think he's going to have a huge year.
I want to ask you a question, Jeff.
Okay.
Are you taking Calvin Ridley over DK Metcalf?
I think I am.
Yeah, and are you taking Calvin Ridley over AJ Brown?
I think I am as well.
Yeah,
This just makes me think that we might be undervaluing Cooper Kupp.
I think that Calvin Ridley. No, I think Calvin Ridley is the end of the B plus. Is why I was bringing that up.
Okay.
I'm fine if you want to move Kupp ahead of at least DK.
Yeah.
I'm very comfortable moving ahead.
Yeah.
I don't know about AJ, but I'm very comfortable moving him in front of DK for sure.
Yeah, we can leave Kupp in. We can leave AJ out of Kupp, and I'm fine with putting Calvin Ridley in the B plus range. I think he could definitely put up similar numbers to Robert Woods at least this year.
I mean, to be honest, I think in some drafts I may even draft Ridley over Kupp. I just know that Ridley's going to put up roughly 1,000 yards and 9 touchdowns, and that is his floor.
Yeah.
To be like he's done it for 2 straight seasons. It's going to happen a third, and he should see an increased workload. So, I'm very comfortable having him there at the end of the B plus range.
Mm-hmm. All right, moving on. We have the next receiver from the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, Chris Godwin, and this is a tough one, right? Because I don't know if I feel comfortable sliding him in at the end of the A range, but then you look at the A minus range and you think, yeah, he's definitely a tier above those guys. So what are you thinking?
End of the A range is where I already moved him there. I thought you were.
All right, yeah, we'll do it. Yeah, we'll do it. I thought it was a question worth posing, at least, because I do think there's a drop-off after Tyreek Hill, but I wouldn't say it's nearly as much of a significant drop-off as Godwin is before Evans.
Yeah, that's the thing is I think that Hill and Godwin are definitely on different levels, but I can't put Godwin and Evans on the same level. So it's just like pick your poison. Sure, throw them at the front of the A minus or throw them at the end of the A. It's a toss up for me.
Yeah, fair enough.
Like he belongs in like a tier in between A and A minus, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, no, I get what you're saying. Yeah. All right. Moving on, we have Trent's favorite receiver for this season. It's DJ Chark. Trent, I don't know where you want to put him, so I'll put him somewhere, and then I'll let you make a case if he should be moved or not. But looking at the board, and the projection we think that he could do, or he could put up, I'm comfortable putting DJ Chark behind Calvin Ridley in the B plus range. Not going to move him higher than that.
I am comfortable putting DJ Chark behind Chris Godwin.
Oh my God.
I'm sorry, but I am drafting DJ Chark over Calvin Ridley, Robert Woods, Odell.
What are you, bro?
Yes.
You are not taking DJ Chark in the late third, early fourth round of drafts. You cannot tell me you were doing that.
I am telling you, DJ Chark is going to finish fringe wide receiver 10.
I can't do this. I can't. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. I think his ceiling is wide receiver 10 this year. I cannot justify. I will not put him higher than the guys, than Calvin Ridley and Robert Woods this year, because I do not see myself drafting him anywhere in that range that we're drafting those guys.
Yeah, we can be drafting wherever they want, but I am telling you.
But I'm drafting this year for projections.
I know, but I'm drafting DJ Chark that late because I know no one else is going to draft him that early. But I'm telling you, DJ Chark is going to finish ahead of those guys.
All right, it will make you a little happy. I'll slide him in above Calvin Ridley, but I'm leaving him behind Robert Woods. Okay.
All right, we can put an asterisk on the rollout for this podcast that DJ Chark should be slotted in I will say behind Allen Robinson as wide receiver 10. That's a little
Oh,
asterisk.
you would? Oh my gosh, that's
Chip,
crazy.
I'm telling you, I am telling the audience, I am telling anyone who is listening to this podcast that DJ Chark will finish roughly wide receiver 10. I will say between wide receiver 8 and wide receiver 12. DJ Chark will finish. As long as he's healthy and Gardner Minshew is his quarterback the whole entire season, he will finish there. If you can draft him in the 4th round, do not wait to the 5th round. Draft DJ Chark in the 4th round with any pick in the 4th round. I don't care if you went wide receiver, wide receiver, wide receiver. You're taking DJ Chark in the 4th round, and you're gonna thank me later.
Oh boy. All right, we're gonna move on from this. This is turning into another Andy Dalton situation. um, okay. The next guy we have is Tyler Boyd from the Cincinnati Bengals. I think I want to slide him with Jarvis Landry, probably behind Jarvis Landry, ahead of T.Y. Hilton in the C range.
Perfect. I got no argument there.
All right, cool. We have Terry McLaurin, Scary Terry from the Washington football team, up next. Based on what we think he can do this year, I almost want to put him in the B range behind Tyler Lockett. What are you thinking?
Already moved him there. We're thinking on the same page.
Hey, great minds think alike. And all right, we're down to our last player because Michael Thomas is just going to sit by himself down here because I was dumb and included 2 pictures of him just because he's that great, apparently. We have Amari Cooper, who I don't think either of us are high on this year. I know he is one guy that I am staying away from. I'm not touching him with a 10-foot pole this season. And looking from a fantasy perspective, I think it's only fair that we slide him in the B range somewhere. The question is where. I'm not going to put him in the B minus because I do think he's going to put up roughly around wide receiver 20 numbers. So we look at top 3 guys, 6, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. So around 20 would be around Tyler Lockett, where we have him finishing.
Where I think Amari Cooper is going to finish and where he's getting drafted are completely different because
I completely agree. Yeah.
I think it's going to be a Zeke year and a young wide receiver year. I think Gallup, we've talked about the numbers in comparison between Cooper and Gallup last season, and Gallup arguably had a better season last year. And we both think CeeDee Lamb's going to have a good season with Dallas. I think that Amari Cooper is the one whose numbers are going to suffer the most. It's not going to be Gallup. It's not going to be Zeke. I can tell you that much. I honestly, where he's going to finish, I think I guess after Lockett's probably pretty accurate. But he may honestly finish behind everyone on this list except Hilton and Boyd.
Yikes.
And maybe Landry too.
I mean, I could see it based on his inconsistencies. I mean, the dude, we like to say it a lot. He was a ghost on the road last season. He had, I think, 8 games with less than 5 catches, 6 games with less than 10 PPR points. I think that those inconsistencies are only going to be emphasized with CeeDee Lamb's emergence in this offense and Mike McCarthy as the new head coach of the Cowboys. So yeah, I think let's put him in the B minus range then at the top. And then I did figure out, we're going to leave Michael Thomas there, but I was dumb and I forgot one of our favorite wide receivers, Trent, Adam Thielen, rounding us out as the 30th player. That's very dumb of me. I'm sure I put him in here, but I must have forgotten to do so. So looking at this board right now, Adam Thielen, I think there's a case to be made for putting him in the last A- spot. And I think there's also a case to be made in putting him right around DJ Moore and Juju in the B+ range. What are you thinking?
That's thunder. I don't know if anyone can hear it.
Yeah.
But I would say Thielen.
He's a top 10 receiver this year for me.
Yeah, he is. I think he's definitely A-. I was honestly thinking if he's over A-Rob, but I think the last guy in A- is definitely where he should be.
All right. So let's pretend this is Adam Thielen. Michael Thomas is Adam Thielen, and then we'll just move him back down here. So no one ended up in the D range for us. Michael Thomas can slide in there for now, I guess. But yeah, this was a great episode. I'm really looking forward to doing this with the running backs and maybe even quarterbacks from a pure football perspective. That would definitely be a fun episode to make. But had a blast doing this, Trent. I hope you did too.
Yeah, I mean, one final question I want to ask you is if there was one guy you had to move, who would it be and where would you move him to?
Okay. That's fair.
To end the segment. We can both
To end this
hypothetically move
segment,
one guy.
to
Yeah.
end this segment. I so have my predictions, and Michael Thomas really does not want to move out of that D spot. Trying to drag him there, but I guess he can hang there for now. If there's one guy I really want to move, realistically, I think it's going to be Keenan Allen into the high B range. That's probably my pick because I'm really high on Allen this year. Trent, where are you moving DJ Chark?
I'd make two moves. I would move Odell down a little bit. I think
Yeah,
that I threw him a little high. I think I would draft probably. I think Robert Woods and Cavalier are safer than Odell, but Odell could honestly finish as an A. Like we really don't know, just
yeah.
based off talent. Like it's possible, but yeah, DJ Chark into the end of the A minus, the wide receiver 10 spot is exactly where he belongs. Exactly where he should be respected. Is the end of the A minus range.
Right. After that, I think we're just going to have to wrap things up. We'll definitely revisit this once we see how DJ Chark is doing a couple weeks into the season. Hope you guys had a great time. If you fast forwarded to the end just to see our final rankings, here they are. Yes, Michael Thomas is a D range player, as you can totally see. Hope you guys had a great time. Stay safe out there, everyone.